Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to a very special extra interview of Final Cut. Today, I'm joined by an actress, writer and director. She's done episodes of Criminal Minds, and she can be currently seen in the Netflix movie A Nice Girl Like You. And she's also done Batman stuff, which I'm eager to ask her about. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Leah Mckendrick.
Hi, Dean. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Very good. Managing it over here in California, but figuring it out day by day.
So, obviously, the first question, aside from how are you, is how did you get started out in acting?
Well, I grew up and always wanted to be an actress. I always knew what I wanted to do. I was going to act and sing, and my parents don't really even know where I got that idea, but I just always kind of thought I'm going to go to Hollywood and I'm going to, pursue entertainment. So it's a weird thing that I don't know where it came from. Mm. But I grew up on Disney films and singing and Michael Jackson and Madonna, and just always knew I was going to be a performer. Like, my favorite thing growing up was Thriller, the music video. And to me, that still is like one of my most, epic experiences is growing up watching Thriller over and over and over again, being sort of like scared, but also just so creatively like in tune. And so I grew up in musicals and performing a lot, and I went south and studied acting in college because my parents were really set on me going to college. They really were not about me being like a child star. They were not about putting me in, camera classes or anything like that. They really wanted me to have a normal life. And they said that if I went off to college, was 18 and chose to do that, that was my own decision. But, it had to be my own thing. They didn't want me to be in Hollywood and in entertainment when I was younger. So then once I went to school and studied acting, that was sort of really where it began, because I got a record deal out of school and I went to New York and was living the dream. And then my label folded and I was back to LA and I was auditioning a lot. And then I started working a bit, and that kind of led to my writing and my directing. And now I do a little bit of everything, just because I've been on this kind of crazy journey of having to find my place and my voice in an industry that is so competitive and oversaturated. But I'm grateful, I guess, at this point, in retrospect, for all of the things that have fallen through and all of the plans that didn't turn out, because it has forced me to learn skills and develop sides of myself I never thought that I would, or that I would have to, or that I even had. So, there's a lot. Does that answer the question? There's been a lot.
Pretty much,
it's been a windy road.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. Obviously, you're acting, writing, and directing. So, who are your influences for each part of that? So, who's your influences for acting, writing, and directing? That's such a good question. I really love Karen Kusama. I think her stuff is really. Have you seen The Invitation, the horror film? I've heard of it. I have seen a fair bit of horror in my time, but I'll have to look that one up. So I'm going to say no on that point yet.
It's really cool, and it's really mainly one location, and it's just done so well. And I see something like that, and I get really excited just as a creator, because I go, look, you don't need huge stars and a ton of money to make something that is an adventure and completely blows you away. So I love Karen Kusama. I'm really big lately on, I don't want to mispronounce his name, but Park Woon-chok. Mm-hmm. I love his stuff. He's a horror director, and his stuff to me is he has an American film, actually, an American made film, but it's called Stoker. But a lot of his films from Korea are so well done, and he makes things that are scary but also beautiful and sexy and mysterious and complex, and I kind of always want to do that. I'm a big fan of Jordan Peele's, and Get Out is one of my favorite movies ever, and I'm always trying to find that blending of different genres, so that when I write, a comedy, there's always going to be elements of drama and darkness. And when I write a rom-com, I never want it to be fluffy. There's always going to be elements of pain and grief and loss. So, because I just think, the human experience is messy and complex, and you never, how many times have you been, laughing while you're in pain, and you're like, why am I laughing? I don't even know, because it's hard to understand ourselves sometimes. So I try to infuse that in my writing and have it be a little bit more complicated than it first seems.
That's not so bad, but can I just point out, the minute you said career and horror, I'm instantly hooked.
Yeah.
Because I have actually said this for years. I've always said that Asian horror is underrated.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Asian horror, they're like the forefathers in some ways, They so many of these, like, American films that people love, The Ring, The Grudge, they came from Asia, and they really are ruthless in some of their films from Asia, and I'm really, like, endlessly inspired by them.
Whoever's listening will probably know this, because I have said this on many an occasion. I actually have the original Japanese trilogy on DVD in my DVD cabinet. Yes, and do you want to know how many?
Cool.
And do you want to know something else that will shock you?
Tell me.
It's like I have not actually unwrapped that trilogy because I know how scary it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's really scary, and I don't think you're necessarily prepared until you see it, and you're like, oh geez, now I understand why it has, like, traveled the globe and been remade, because it's just so well done. Sometimes you just cannot imitate the original.
Sometimes you can, but you'd have to be somebody really special like James Cameron, maybe. But,
sure, yeah. James Cameron's, one of the best, for sure.
He is. Right, let's talk about your acting. So you've done many TV shows up until now, namely Criminal Minds. So was it exciting? It was exciting stuff on paper, but was it actually exciting in reality?
To shoot Criminal Minds? Yeah, it was super exciting. I had actually auditioned for it several times over several years. So I kept kind of thinking, it's going to happen. And then when I finally got it, I was, like, so excited, but it was actually one of my most difficult roles to audition for, because I had one kind of lighthearted scene, and then they're like, okay, great, next scene. And then the next scene, it begins right at the top. I'm, like, being kidnapped, and I'm crying, and I'm freaking out. And it was like jumping from one scene that feels authentically, like, lighthearted and not too heavy, and you're not trying to bring in the second scene into the first scene as an actor, and then you have to go right into this, emotional, crying, pained, place. And I remember just thinking, if I can actually do this, I'm going to get the role. If I could do this in the room, I'm going to get it, because this is so challenging. And I was able to do it in the room, and then I got it. And so I felt very, like, vindicated. I think that happens a lot for actors in LA. It happened for me on a TV show called Justified, where I think I auditioned like 4 or 5 times, and then the show finished and I never got it. And that really broke my heart, because I had been to producers, and I had been close, and I had been pinned and almost got the job multiple times. And then when it just finishes, I was like, I can't believe I never got to be on that show. So it was really nice, because, Criminal Minds did finish after, a bazillion seasons, which was really sad. But I feel like I'm a teeny tiny part of that legacy after auditioning for so many years, and then finally getting to be a part of the world was really special.
Yeah, I'm going to say, if there's any I know there has been a few spin-offs, but if they do any more, would you happily try and audition again for it?
Oh my God, of course. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Now, let's move on to the Eastwood family, namely Francesca, who I believe you starred with in a movie called MFA. Excuse me.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what is that actually about, and what role do you play in it?
That is a rape revenge film about a girl in college who is raped at a party and experiences a sort of evolution, and her thesis for her art school becomes revenge and vindication and justice, and starts taking off the rapists at school one by one. So it's sort of like a vigilante thriller. And I actually wrote that as well and produced it, and that was my first feature film as a filmmaker. And I play her friend, her roommate, and her friend who starts to piece together what's happening.
Yeah. All right. If I said I'm fascinated, I would definitely not be lying, because I am fascinated. So pitch to me the movie, because as everybody who listens know, I absolutely love the Saw movies and Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead. So I'm focused on you. Great. My eyes are open. Make my eyes pop out.
Oh man, I mean, here's my real elevator pitch on it. Is this the rape revenge film? The rape revenge genre has always been made by men. And to be honest, it can be fetishized. It can fetishize women's bodies. It can fetishize the experience of being raped. And just the simple fact that this film was made by women, and the New York Times called us the first horror film to speak to the Me Too era, I think it was like we didn't know that we were doing anything that was so different or even revolutionary. We were just trying to tell a story that felt authentic to us and to our lives and to our experiences and to our own rage. And I think just by doing that, myself and Natalia, the director, it ends up feeling it's difficult to watch. A lot of people have told us that the rape is so hard to watch, but feels so real and so cutting. And the rage that she experiences and the evolution that she experiences is rooted in truth for me, and rooted in truth for the director, and rooted in truth for, I think, a lot of women that have experienced trauma and how it changes you. So my only pitch is, yes, I think it's wish fulfillment. I think a lot of people have said that they feel a release and a catharsis when some of these bad men die. But more than anything, I would say that I'm very proud of the fact that it is truly, to its core, female made, and is the DNA of it is truly female.
All right, how scary was Francesca Eastwood in it?
She's an amazing actress. She really is such a talent, and she really carries the film, and you will be blown away. That is one thing I can promise you. You will be blown away by Franny.
Well, one thing, that is obviously Clint Eastwood, obviously, but a lot of people might not know that her mum is Frances Fisher, who was Kate Winslet's mum in Titanic, so...
Right.
You kind of have two of the big Hollywood heavyweights as your mum and dad, and it's kind of like, how can you not either love her or at least have respect for her? Because I have actually seen her in a few movies, and I actually am quite impressed by her. So I will be looking out for that movie on the radar. In fact, I have 4 hours and 39 minutes left in my day, and I will be spending majority of them seeing what I can find. I would love it if you would
watch it. Please watch it and let me know where it's available in your country, because it's kind of different everywhere.
Yeah,
some places have it on Shudder. Some places here in America, we don't have it on Shudder, but some places have it. Here we have it streaming free on Amazon Prime. But
I have Amazon Prime.
I wonder if it's available in your country. I'm not sure. So I don't. Please tell your listeners where they can find it.
I will let them know, and I will let you know as well. Right, so...
Love it.
Let's just switch from Amazon to Netflix. Yes, I'm not plugging Netflix, I'm just simply saying. You're in the Netflix movie A Nice Girl Like You. I have actually watched it. I know the answer to this question, yep. So, what is it about, and what role do you play? It can be as much rated R as you need to explain it. That's all I will say.
You know what's fun is it's actually not available on Netflix over here. So I love that it's available on Netflix over there. Here it is on, like, you know, Amazon and you know, iTunes and Apple and all that. But the film is cute. It's a rom-com. It's about a girl who gets dumped by her boyfriend because she's not sex positive enough. You know, he likes porn and she's judging him for that. And she's just too type A and not sexually adventurous. So she decides to start a sex to-do list where she's going to explore her own sexuality and get a little freaky. And on that journey, she meets a lovely gentleman and, you know, rom-com ensues, rom-com comedy. And I play the porn star that her boyfriend who dumped her is a fan of. And, you know, on her to-do list, one of the last and final thing is to meet me. So it's you know, it's a fun, sexy little romp, and people are really liking it, which is nice. And it stars Lucy Hale from Pretty Little Liars, and she's a doll.
I do actually have a question about Lucy Hale. Is it true she can't keep secrets?
I don't know. I haven't asked her that. I spent a couple days with her, and she seemed very capable of keeping secrets. So
it's just that
I don't know her very well.
I actually read on IMDb that everyone on Pretty Little Lies, bar her, knew what the twist was about who A was. So I didn't actually know if you actually saw anything that might back that up or not.
No, didn't see anything. I did like a little road trip with her and her best friend, and they were sort of real cute, and you know, I've got nothing negative to report about that girl. She's real sweet and works hard.
Oh, bless her. So what sort of movie would you describe it as for anyone who's not entirely sure about it? A movie go ahead. Yeah, what would you describe it as? Sort of like, you'd describe it as a rom-com, wouldn't you? Is there any other versions that you could say, like rom-com, there's a bit of drama in it, etc., etc.?
I'd say it's a true rom-com. True blue rom-com, you know, doesn't get too heavy. It's like a fun watch if you're feeling a little down. I'm sure it'll make you giggle and you know, maybe watch with your friends and, you know, get some popcorn and maybe watch it after a horror film to make you feel better so you can go to sleep. You
can have a Lucy Hale double bill if you wish. Go and watch 3, 4 Dare, followed by that.
Yes.
But that is
totally.
That movie is actually quite cringeworthy. I have actually watched it.
I have not yet.
You don't want to.
Really?
Yeah. There's so many like devilish grins when they say True 4 Dare. It's just like, oh my God, please don't.
Really?
Yep.
Hey, you know, you win some, you lose some. That's what's crazy about this business.
It is, yep.
You know, you take some big swings, and sometimes it just doesn't work, and it's not for lack of trying or for lack of effort from the people that made it.
I'm glad you just mentioned that, because that brings me on to my next question. Now, a lot of people might not know this, but I certainly do. You did a short movie about DC villain Poison Ivy, where you actually played an adult Poison Ivy. So what made you decide to shoot a short origin movie about her?
Well, I've always loved her. I grew up she was like my favorite of the comic book universe. And I never really felt that I understood enough about her that I had enough to go off of. And you know, she was a scientist, and I was always kind of like scrambling through. I would be at the comic book store with my brother, and I'd be trying to find stuff about her, and I always felt like she was just such a side character, and she wasn't getting her moment in the sun. And sure, we have, you know, the Batman and Robin, Uma Thurman version.
Yeah, there's Gotham version, there's the Arkham games version, there's all the animated versions we've had.
Sorry, what'd you say?
And all the animated versions we've had.
Yes, the animated versions. And I feel like I've always been a little itchy for more. And then I was actually in London on vacation, and I got a call from my agent saying, you know, you have an audition tape, and he knew that I was on vacation. So I was like, wait, what? Like, is it really necessary? Because I just got here and I'm enjoying myself. And he was like, you're going to want this one. And it was an audition for Poison Ivy in the TV show. And I like knew nobody in London, and I had to like scramble to learn the lines and to pull it together. And I had a friend that I didn't realize lived there, and she was so lovely and taped me, and it was like a whole thing. And then I remember they ended up going like way younger or something. They like went in a different direction or whatever. And I remember feeling so down because I was, and look, you're as an actor, you audition all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You mostly don't get the things that you audition for. But for some reason, this one really like upset me. And I think it was because I, loved this character and it was so iconic. And I kind of never got over that a little bit, where I was like, I want to play Poison Ivy. I want to speak on Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy needs her moment. And so I had pitched it to a friend of mine who's my producer on a lot of my projects. She produced MFA as well. And she was like, let's do it. Let's just make it. And I wasn't ready in that moment. And so I wrote the script and I kind of sat on it. And she was like, let's just make it. Let's just make it. And then finally we did. So there it is.
Right. Is it just actually an origin story, or is there more to it?
I mean, it's truly kind of an origin story that I believe speaks to why she becomes so sexualized, why she has this rage, why she has this attachment to plant life. Mm-hmm. So it's my own sort of, imagination running a little bit wild to tell the story in a way that I believe is grounded and speaks to her as a woman, rather than she's just really sexy and likes to wear tight things and she's hot and she's in the Batman universe because she's hot, and I'm like, I don't understand her, So for me, it was going a little bit further back than the comic books do, and starting in her childhood and going from there.
Right. Now you didn't just star in this, but you did write and direct it. So from a writing and directing point of view, how did you want your Ivy to be not just different from any other version, but to not suffer the same fate as, say, Uma Thurman's version from Batman and Robin?
I think because we started as a kid, as a little girl, I was hoping that even when she starts feeling more like the Ivy that we know, sexy, devious, evil, if you want to say, that we have empathy towards her, that we understand her on some deeper level, that there's a little girl behind those eyes that was stunted in her youth because of trauma that she experienced. I don't like to paint, bad guys with one brush. I think they're more complex. And I think we're all sort of, even when we're the bad guys, we're the heroes of our own story. And so that's why, for example, in my film MFA, it was important to me that the man that raped her was actually quite good looking and charming and creative and talented and sexy and flirty, and that she had a crush on him, so that it wasn't just like a guy in a bush with a knife, telling her to take her clothes off, because I think traditionally, just statistically, that's not, most rapes don't work that way. They're not random. It's usually people we know. So I feel like I wanted to bring that sort of approach to Poison Ivy, where she is painted as a bad guy, as a super villain, but let's get in the nitty gritty. Let's try to understand her. Let's start at the source, why somebody goes to dark places, and it's because they have been let down by humanity in many ways. And she's a victim, and hurt people. So that was sort of how I approached it, with not judging Poison Ivy, but with a lot of love for her.
Yeah. I actually did look at the cast list, and I must admit, I was expecting a lot of people in it, but I was not expecting to see this gentleman's name in it. How did you get Eric Roberts in your short movie? Wow.
Isn't he great? Yeah, it was super exciting, right? Because he's already in the Batman universe, being in the Dark Knight. And we wanted him, and we had a casting director, and he, Lauren and Mayank, they went after him, and he luckily, liked the script and clearly believes in young female up and coming filmmakers, and was down, and we just got really lucky. And look, he's just a man that loves to act. He loves to be on set, and he loves to perform. And that's a beautiful thing in an actor. It's a beautiful thing in an actor that has done as much as him, because I think he knows he doesn't have anything to prove. He's been around. We've all seen him in his work. Huh? What'd you say?
He's paid his dues.
Yes. Yep. He's very much paid his dues, so he doesn't need to work as much as he does, but he enjoys to work.
Yeah.
So I think that, we got lucky with that, because it's just a short film, but I think he added like a lot of it when you see Eric Roberts and how good he is. I think it gives some credibility to our little film.
Yeah. Are you actually a DC fan?
I am a DC fan. I wouldn't say that I'm a fan of every single thing that is made.
I'm not.
But I don't know if there's any DC fans that are a fan of every single thing that is made, but I love the reinventions, the creativity they infuse. I love how they take chances on new filmmakers, and also, like we saw with Joker, filmmakers like Todd Phillips that we appreciate already, but maybe didn't think would be like the perfect choice for Joker, and totally was. He was perfect. I mean, I think DC is just like, I admire them making, taking some big risks, and I really love any studio that's willing to do that with IP that they have.
Mm-hmm. All right, now can you please tell me where I can find this short movie, because I am really fascinated by it, so I really want to watch it. Any ideas where it might be?
Yes, it's on PamelaandIvy.com.
I'll find that. Yeah, I will find it. I'll try and watch that after this interview, actually, because I really do like it.
Thank you.
Right, so we've actually gone on about Poison Ivy, but can I just say one thing? You probably will agree with me on this, but I'll just say it anyway. In your short movie, and I mean this with the highest compliment that there is, you actually had a good-looking Poison Ivy, who, if you actually kissed her and died, a lot of men would probably go, yeah, that's not a bad way to die. But it's just that majority of Poison Ivies have been, real bad letdowns. I mean, Uma Thurman's version was all right. It was just the really pants movies she was in.
Right.
All the animated versions were like watered down or just absolute rubbish. The only Poison Ivies who actually kind of follow that formula of the kiss and die formula are yours, Peyton List, who was in Gotham, and the Ivy from the Batman Arkham games. So I doubt DC's listening, but if they are listening, if you're going down the route of perfecting Poison Ivy, ask your advice of my guest here. Come to think of it.
I think Peyton List is who beat me out for the role on Gotham.
Oh, you're joking.
Because I know that she was cut. They like recast a couple times, but I think it's Peyton List that ended up getting it the time that I auditioned.
She's had too much DC work. She should have let you have it. So actually,
well, thank you. I think we all got to play Poison Ivy, and I'm grateful for that. And I hope my journey with working with Poison Ivy isn't over. We'll see.
Well, actually, come to think of it, we have a DC extended universe, don't we? So I suppose the next question would be, would you play Poison Ivy?
I would love to.
I really want you to.
I would totally love to. I hope to play Poison Ivy again and again. And, I think I can die happily on some level because I did get to play her. Even if it was in my own movie that I wrote and directed, it was still like such a dream to wear the suit and to get in her head. It was really a special experience for me.
Good passion. What more can you ask for? So this next section is, I ask everyone who I interview this just for their take on the questions that I ask. So obviously we've all been there and done that, we've made our decision about what career we're doing, but sometimes after a few months or a few years, it feels like we're getting nowhere with it. So what advice would you give if somebody came to you and said, I feel like my career's going nowhere?
I feel like my career is going nowhere.
Yeah, what would your advice be to someone who actually thinks that?
Yeah. I have been at that point many times, many, many times in my life. And what I have done is pivot. I've always pivoted and gone, okay, if I'm not getting cast in the movie, I guess I have to make the movie. Mm-hmm. If I'm, if I'm not getting the kind of offered songs that I want, I guess I have to write the song. If I'm not, if I don't see the kind of roles that I want to play out in the world, I guess I have to write those roles. So look, it is not, the elevator to success is broken, take the stairs. That's how I feel. And a lot of people don't want to work that hard. They're like, oh, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, you didn't want it that badly. So I feel like no matter what career you're in, if you feel stunted, you feel like there's nowhere to go. Well, so many people wait for permission. They're like, well, I wanted to get this job and I didn't get hired, or I wanted to get that job, or I had this job and I was fired and now I don't know where to go. Well, can you create the job? That's sort of what that's my mantra as far as, and it has led to these amazing, beautiful things in my career that I thought I would never have. I'm getting to write so much and I feel like I have so many opportunities from the pivots that I have made in my life. So I think it's never wait for permission. Do what you can with what you have today. And create those opportunities for yourself. And it's going to be a lot more work. But then I think being an actress, for example, there's millions, bazillions of actresses in this town trying to do it. And you're not indispensable unless you're, Angelina Jolie, who is this famous, beloved name. But as a writer, I have my unique voice, and nobody can take that away from me. And so I sort of understand that on some level, I'm easily forgotten in some ways as an actress, while I know that as a unique individual, I'm not. So it's kind of proving that to the universe and to this town. And I think everybody else is the same way. They're unique and they have unique skills to offer. So find what makes you indispensable.
Sound advice. Got really I
hope that was helpful to people that are like in insurance or something. I don't know much about any other industry other than my own, but I hope it applies.
You can only give advice on what you've been through, and B, what you feel and what you know.
True. Yeah.
All right then. Obviously, COVID has hit us hard, and cinemas have been shut down. I mean, ours in England have actually reopened, which is a bit of a sigh of relief, but obviously I think in America they're still shut, aren't they?
Yeah, I went to the drive-in last night. We have drive-in theaters here in LA, but the movie theaters are not open here.
So this is another question I ask everyone I interview. Do you think that cinemas will soon be replaced by movies going straight to, say, Netflix or Amazon, Apple TV, HBO Max, etc., etc., etc.?
I don't think that. I know there's a big fear for that. I know everybody's like, theaters are over, going to the movies is over. And I just disagree, because I think if you ask people, do you want them to be over? Most people go, no, I love going to the movies. And I go, as long as there's a demand, there will be a business to meet that demand. I think right now it's a weird time. We are, scared. We haven't figured this thing out yet, especially here in my country, in the United States, where, afraid of other people because we don't want to get sick, because we don't want to get them sick.
Yeah.
We really were hit very hard. So it feels, we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So it feels like we're going to be VOD for the rest of our lives, but that's just not true. We're going to figure this out, as we always do in this world, and we're going to find a way to get back to movies. I think it's just, there's always going to be a combination of streaming films and theaters. There's always going to be that, especially with the success of Netflix and the success of these streamers. But I think that we love a communal experience. We are built as humans to gravitate towards community, to want to see people, to want to share something. Somebody once told me that going to the movies, we are dreaming together. And I feel like that's so beautiful and so true. We want to laugh with other people, seeing a comedy for the first time. We want to be at the edge of our seats, scared with a group of people, watching a scary movie on the big screen. I love movie theaters. I want my movies to be seen by groups of people sharing a communal dream. So as long as there are filmmakers that want that, and as long as there are audience members that want that, we will have movie theaters.
This won't surprise you, but a lot of people feel exactly the same way as you.
Yeah, I think it's just we're scared, and we're like, well, maybe we'll have COVID forever. And I'm like, we're not going to have COVID forever. We're not. It's been hard, and it's been sad, and it's been terrible that so many countries have been able to handle it, and been here. We have not been able. We've, lack of leadership and whatever. We can get into it, but it has hit us really hard. But we are resilient, and we have scientists figuring this out as we speak, working around the clock, that were born for this moment. And I'm very proud of that science has saved us so many times in the past, and science will save us this time too.
There's always scientific breakthroughs every day, so more than possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So let's not talk about Leah, the director, the writer, the actress. Let's talk about you as a person. What are your passions and what are your interests?
My passions and my interests. That's so nice. I do worry sometimes that I feel like my whole life is my career. It's because it's a blur. It's a very blurred line when you make movies and TV for a living, and then everything you watch and experience, you feel like contributes to your work. So it can be hard to kind of shut that off. But outside of that, I really like to go to dance class. I really like to hike. I love going to cabins, and I'm here in California. We have a place called Lake Tahoe, which is like by a lake, and I like to go there with my friends and barbecue and swim. I love to travel. It's been really hard during COVID to not be able to go on trips. I had just gone to Seattle, and I love coffee shops. I like to go every city that I go to in the world. I always look up what are like the coolest coffee shops in that city, and I go there at one each day, and I get to see and experience what coffee is like there, and what kind of pastries they have there, and what the vibe is, and who's sitting there writing. And I love coffee shop culture, so that's a big thing. So I love to travel and experience that. And I think family and friends are it sounds so basic, but my family I don't see very often because I live down in Los Angeles and my family's in San Francisco. So I do feel like seeing my family and making an effort to go see my family. I have a new little niece. She's a brand new baby. She was born this summer. Is becoming more and more a part of my, I don't want to say like hobbies or interests, but just it's become a bigger part of my life, like finding out how to get back up there to see my family when I'm, usually just a workhorse. So, right now, one thing that's been sad is like every Sunday I have this tradition where I go to dance class in the morning, and then I take myself to brunch at my favorite place all time. And that's what I do every Sunday. And then I relax for the rest of the day. And I haven't been able to do that because I actually found out that the dance studio that I go to is shutting down because of COVID, shutting down forever. And so that's been like I know that there's been so many things that have shut down.
Yeah.
Institutions and cities across the world have shut down, but that one hit me hard, maybe because it was a part of I went 2 or 3 times a week. And so seeing that happen was like a really big, like, oh no, this is happen. Like, this isn't going to have long-term effects on all of our lives. So right now I'm in a weird place. I still hike. I would love more time to read. I have so many books that I have piled up here that I love to buy books, but then I can't find the time to actually read them. So I'm dying for more of that. But I think right now I'm just such a workspace, because it's what keeps me getting up in the morning during this sort of sad time.
Yeah. All right, then, aside from doing anything about poison ivy, what are your career highlights?
My career highlights, I think I have a really special place in my heart for my first big movie, which was a movie called Misconduct, and it's starring Sir Anthony Hopkins and Al Pacino and Josh Duhamel, and that was my first big movie that I ever made, and I love it so much because I just remember what it was like to be on set with all of these big, Julia Stiles was in it, and Alice Eve, and Mullen Ackerman, Glenn Powell. I mean, they're huge actors, and I was like the baby, and I just remember feeling like my life had become a dream come true. And we were shooting in New Orleans, and it's my favorite city in the world, and yeah, it was just, you don't have a lot of experiences like that. You think every experience is going to be like that. When you're a little baby actress dreaming, you're like, I'm going to shoot these movies all throughout the country and throughout the world. We're all going to be best friends. And the reality is not really that. You kind of come in, you do a couple days, nobody knows who you are, everybody's nice, they're like, okay, bye. But this was one of those dream experiences. And so that's a big highlight for me, shooting Misconduct in New Orleans. And then I think probably my proudest achievement is making MFA, because it was, it starts as this little kernel of an idea in your head, and then to go through the process of, putting it to the page, writing it, rewriting it, begging people to believe in it, getting a director, finding the money, casting it, shooting it, post-production, premiering it we premiered at South by Southwest, which is one of the best festivals in the world. I love it so much. To releasing it, to it being available in the UK, which is and throughout the world it's just a crazy idea when it just started as this little thought in your head. And I'm so proud of the film. I'm so proud of everybody that worked on it, and so that's a really special one for me. And then maybe what I'm working on right now is the prequel to Grease, the musical.
Really?
When Danny and Sandy meet over the summer, that happens right before Grease, and writing that right now is truly a dream come true, and I wanted it very badly, and I fought hard for it, and it does feel like a new level of my career, and a new chapter of my career, and I'm just really kind of trying to remind myself when I get overworked or overwhelmed, or if they didn't like something I did, or whatever, I try to just remind myself that this is the dream, and it, it's every more money, more problems, right? It's nothing is, you keep thinking that when you reach a certain point, everything is going to be perfect, and that's just not the truth. And that intellectually, but emotionally, you still kind of believe it. So I'm always trying to remind myself that it's still probably as good as it's getting.
Yeah.
And even though it's good days and bad days, I'm very grateful.
Do you ever wake up in the morning and pinch yourself to make sure you're not dreaming anything?
Oh my God, all the time. All the time. I feel like I go to sleep every single night, and I'm as bad as my day was, or as annoyed as I got, or as, whatever BS happened that day, I kind of go to sleep and I'm just thank you for my life. I'm grateful for my life.
You just literally have a beer and go, I'm living the dream.
Yeah, this is it. I always, there's this quote in this movie, I think it was in what movie was it in? Oh, it was in The Hours.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that movie?
I think I've seen bits
have
and
you seen
bobs
the
of
movie
it.
with
Yeah, I've seen bits and
Nicole
bobs of it,
yeah. Kidman? Yeah. And she says something like, I always thought, I would have these moments and I would think this is the beginning of happiness. And then now I realize, no, that wasn't the beginning of happiness. That was happiness. I was already happy. I was in it. But you keep waiting for that next wave of something bigger. So I try to remind myself that I don't know that happiness necessarily comes as this like permanent state, that then I was happy and that was the rest of my life. I think you have these moments, seconds, hours, days, months, or years. It doesn't matter. You have moments of happiness, and I definitely have that right now. I have big moments of happiness, and where I'm just very proud of myself and content. But I don't know that it's going to stay for the next 6 months or that it's going to stay for the next several years. And so I think we just have to try to savor those moments where we feel really content, because I think they can be fleeting if you don't hold on to them.
Indeed. Couldn't agree with you more. So the next question is actually, what other projects have you got coming up? But you've just literally told me what projects you've got.
Yeah, I'm working on Grease. I've got a TV show at HBO Max in the works.
Oh, have you?
Hopefully that goes. It's in the writing phase right now, the rewriting phase, and it's been an interesting experience to work on a TV show, because most everything I do is feature films these days. It's hoping for that, and then I've got a couple other rom-coms coming out. I'm not coming out, but headed into hopefully production, and that this is an interesting time for me because I have several big studio projects and waiting for one of them to really be shot, to go into production. And obviously with COVID, it has been a complication and difficult, but, I'm really praying that, 2021 is that year that I start having some of my projects shooting. Because, man, I wasn't meant to just write stuff that ends up on the shelf. So I'm really hoping, and that is the name of the game as a writer. You cannot really control what gets made and what doesn't. But I'm in a fortunate position that I feel that, there's some people really supporting each of my projects. People, there's some engines on my projects because I have hardworking people behind them and backing me up. So pray for me that 2020, I was hoping that 2020 was going to be that year. Clearly it has not been. Clearly we hit a little snag there, but I'm very hopeful for next year.
Yeah, can I just tell you what the golden rule is of 2021?
Give it to me.
Don't talk about 2020.
I'm down for that rule. Let's go with that.
Yep. All right then. What would you like the future to hold for you, except for playing Poison Ivy in the DC extended universe?
Other than playing Poison Ivy, I'm actually, on a personal level, I am house hunting. I'm looking for my first house. I put in an offer on my first house and I didn't get it, and that was really disappointing. But I would hope that on a personal level, I find the house of my dreams, and I'm moving into that soon. That would be very nice, because I'm a little stir crazy these days in my little apartment. But on a professional level, I really miss acting. It's been a year, as most people have experienced. It's been a year of, isolation and a lot of writing in the past couple of years, which I'm really grateful for. And I'm so excited to be able for the world to see some of these projects that I've just been holed up, putting my heart and soul into. But as an actress, I really miss the connection to other people. I miss being on set. I miss entering the worlds that I create and the worlds that other people create. So I really hope that I can find more of a balance between my filmmaking and my acting, so that I can do it all, because I think it is part of my process to create a world and then to enter that world as a performer, as an actor. So So I hope that I find that balance a little bit more. And it would be nice, honestly, between you and I and your listeners, it would be really nice for me to have a little bit of more of a work-life balance, because I think right now it's just so heavily work. I don't, have children, and I don't have, a husband. So my whole life becomes my job right now, and I'm trying to make hay while the sun is shining. But I also want to feel that I didn't just let these wonderful years of my life pass by with me doing nothing but working my ass off. I really want to be able to feel that I savored, my niece being a baby and growing up, and that I, my parents aren't going to be here forever, that I was there, and that I enjoyed my family, and that I enjoyed my friendships, and that I just wasn't completely focused on my work. So I'm trying to find that, and that's tough. And I think I've dreamed for so long, dreamt for so long of this moment in my career that my producer says to me the other day, he's like, "You're a starving actress that can't get away from the buffet table." And I'm like, that's so mean, but so true. That's really true. I have a hard time turning projects down or saying no, because I've worked so hard to get to the point where I have opportunities. So I really want to find a point where I can just say, I'm getting better at it, but I need to not take on too much. And because it's a scarcity mindset where I'm like, nobody's going to offer me anything if I don't like hop on this moment, if I don't, capitalize, and to just trust that I have reached a point in my career and in my life that people understand what I'm capable of and what I have to offer. And I don't need to come from a fear-based place and say yes to everything if I'm not available, or if I just don't have the time, or if my heart's not in it, to just learn to go, I'm going to, take each project as it comes and not necessarily need to fill up my plate like I'm at the buffet table. Yep.
Not fill it up too much, obviously, because working too hard is literally one of the worst things you can do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One last thing. If people want to find you on social media, how would they go about it?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter. It's just at Leah Mckendrick. Leah Mckendrick, LeahMckendrick. And I really love when anybody DMs me to tell me what they thought of, unless they're mean, please don't be mean to me, because I get my feelings hurt. But when people DM me to tell me what they thought of Ivy, or what they thought of MFA, or that they saw that my movie was available streaming here in another country, I think that's so cool and special for me, because I don't know necessarily where it's streaming or where it's available, or that it, touches certain people, or that, they had a certain experience, because all I see is all the flaws in my work, all I see is like, that my makeup is melting off in this scene, or that, I wish we had more time to shoot that scene. So when people tell me nice things about my work, it really does make my day, and remind me that I'm doing okay, and I'm not, sucking at my job.
Right. I've got time for one more question for you.
Sure.
All right. Yeah. This is your dream movie, so since you're a writer and a director, you're doing everything. I just need you to get me four actors and actresses for the lead roles. It can be anybody. Money is not a problem. Who do you pick?
Jeff Bridges. Ooh. Amy Adams.
Wow.
Jeff Bridges and Amy Adams. Let's go with Denzel Washington. And let's go with Ali Wong, the comedian who I love. And she's an actress as well, but she's just so much fun and so hilarious. And I just read her memoir, and she's just like my fave. So yeah, that's what it's going to be a really interesting cast. I'm going to figure it out. I'll figure out the movie later, right? Yeah. I'm just going to make sure I get the most epic cast ever.
Can I just say, I actually thought you'd be struggling, because a lot of people I've actually put that to actually do struggle, but you're like, nah, I know exactly what I'm having. I'm just going to say everything in the space of 20 seconds.
No, I got it. I can come up with 20 actors that I want to work with in 20 seconds.
Wow. If I ever do get you on again, I will hold you to that.
Sounds good. Love it.
Right. So So, Leah, it's been an absolute honour having you for this interview today. So, ladies and gentlemen, probably the best poison ivy that has ever existed, Leah Mckendrick.
Oh, thank you so much, Dean. That's so nice. That makes my day.
Oh, bless you.